I was born in a Pontiac Firebird on the way to the hospital. I don't think labor was that bad for my mom, but you'll have to ask her. I was kind of an impatient baby. I still am. Anyways, back to my story. After I was born, I was taken to Mercy Hospital. When I arrived, they cut my umbilical cord, and my mom said I stopped breathing and started to turn blue. So I was rushed to Children's Hospital. At 18 hours old, I had open heart surgery. I was born with hypo-plastic right heart, a congenital heart defect in which the right atrium and right ventricle are underdeveloped. Anyways, I had heart surgery, and then I started to grow like most babies and toddlers do. Growing up. That's me and my grandma. Although I had had heart surgery at 18 hours old, I still got tired easily, and when I was cold, my lips and nails would turn blue. At 5 years old, I had a second open heart surgery, so the doctors could put in a Fontan. There were some complications after the surgery, like fluid wrapping around the heart, the tubes to drain the fluid, and being stuck in the hospital longer than I wanted to be. It was all okay though. It was all okay though because I had a loving family and the best little brother. Anyways, after the surgery and the fluid wrapping around my heart was all taken care of, I went home and continued to grow and enjoy life like all kids do. When I was 10 years old, my family and I moved to Hawaii because my dad was in the military. Living in Hawaii with my family was the best. I went boogie boarding, hiking, rode on the back of our jet ski, rollerbladed, went to preteen dances, went camping, and I had lots of friends. And this picture here is me and my adorable little sister. She's the best thing since sliced bread. Picture of the jet ski at Chinaman's Hat. So much fun. I think we were at Bellows in this one. I'm not sure. Camping with me and my mom and dad and sister, but they're not in that picture. This is said family. Myself, my adorable little sister, my mom, my awesome brother, and my dad. Anyways, I was going on about my business, having the time of my life when I didn't have a migraine or really bad headache. You see, when I was 10 years old and through my preteen years, I got really bad migraines. My mom took me to the neurologist, and I still saw a pediatric cardiologist. The neurologist couldn't find anything wrong with me, but put me on some headache medicine. And of course, I took 81 milligrams of baby aspirin for my heart. I've been taking that since I was 5. The headache medicine and neurologist were to no avail. At the age of 13, I had a mini stroke. I was minding my own business, cleaning the house like my mom asked me to, when suddenly I lost all control in my facial muscles, and my speech was slurring. When I tried to tell my mom that something was wrong, my head hurt, and I knew what I wanted to say, but had difficulty saying it. My mom rushed me to the hospital, where I had to stay for 3 days of observation, and then was sent home. Some side effects of that awful experience. My school had to be informed of the mini stroke, and I had to be a part of a buddy system where I walked with a classmate from class to class. I was in 7th grade, and I felt like a weirdo and freak. I was fine by myself. Why did everyone have to know about it? Why did I have to be made to feel weirder? Weirder. Okay, so I don't have any pictures for this next phase in my life, so hopefully this random drawing will suffice. Anyways, shortly after that incident, my dad got new orders, and we moved from sunny Hawaii to drab Rhode Island. It's cold there. I don't like the cold. Anyways, I finished out my 7th grade year in Rhode Island. The summer before 8th grade, I had a full-blown stroke. It was awful. I woke up that morning with a headache, went to the park with my family, and went home to veg out on the couch to watch Fast and Furious with my dad. I fell asleep during the movie. When I woke up, I had the worst headache ever in the back of my head, and my neck hurt. I got up and walked slowly to the kitchen to my mom. I was so dizzy, I felt like Alice falling down the rabbit hole. I made it to my mom. I struggled to tell her something was wrong. My speech was slurred. I knew what I wanted to say, but it was so hard to speak. I felt nauseous. My mom helped me to the bathroom, where my dad said I threw up like something from The Exorcist. My dad had to carry me to the van because I couldn't walk any further than the toilet. My dad carried me to the van, where I was rushed to the hospital and then transported to Children's Hospital in Boston. The ambulance informed my family and me that I had had a full-blown stroke. They put me on a heparin IV and observed me for a week. Then they let me go home. I got off lucky because the teachers went on strike that year, just as school was about to start. How was I lucky, you ask? I was lucky because after the stroke, I had lost all of my fine motor skills. Writing was really hard, eating was difficult, drawing was awful. I worked until school started on gaining control of my fine motor skills, so I could once again write, draw, paint, and eat my food with ease. Also, after the stroke, the doctors put me on warfarin, a blood thinner that helps with clots and strokes. Unlike other blood thinners, with warfarin you have to get your blood checked, however often the cardiologist or doctor you're seeing tells you to. And there are certain foods you have to be cautious of if your blood isn't as thin as it's supposed to be. Foods like spinach and nearly all leafy greens affect the warfarin. Make sure you discuss your diet with your doctor. Anyway, after my stroke, right before 8th grade started, I worked on getting things back to normal, whatever normal is. I managed 8th grade like any other preteen would, with homework, friends, and fond memories. I started high school and started working part-time at the dollar store. My mom was my boss, and I never had it easy. She was a real slave driver. I had to keep my grades up in school so I could go to college. I spent a lot of time in the library for school projects, and I had amazing friends. At the end of my sophomore year, my dad got new orders, and we moved to North Carolina. By this age, moving, especially out in the middle of nowhere, was no fun. It especially wasn't fun because making friends was hard for me. At any rate, we moved to North Carolina, where I had to find a new part-time job, keep my grades up, make new friends so I wasn't a loser, and my mom and I had to struggle to find a new pediatric cardiologist and a new clinic that could do blood work and manage the warfarin I was taking. In addition to all of those new things, I was a teenager who knew everything and was trying my hardest to move halfway up the coast or across the country for college, to be far, far away from my mom, dad, sister, and brother. It was all to no avail. My mom made sure I ended up right down the street at university and lived at home to save money. In the end, it was a good choice, and college was not as awful as my last 2 years of high school. Although, I would have to say, my last 2 years of high school weren't all bad. My brother, sister, and I were a little closer, either because of the change or because we realized we were all we had. College was amazing. I loved my classes, especially the classes in my major, art. I loved that I got to pick when I went to class. I loved that I could skip class when I wanted. FYI, there are consequences to skipping class. They just don't involve mom or dad unless they are footing the bill. I loved how easy it was to make friends in college. College was the best. The two best parts of college were that I got an amazing boyfriend who taught me how to drive, and I got my license and a car. My mom was right about staying at home and going to college to save money. I managed to graduate with only a $500 loan my senior year. Everything else was paid for via my part-time job and grants and scholarships. As amazing as my college experience was, it did have its drawbacks. Drawback number one was healthcare insurance. My mom and dad did everything within their power to keep me on their healthcare insurance until I graduated. Lucky for me, Obama was voted president in 2008 and changed a bunch of healthcare laws that, in my opinion, needed to be changed. Like the part where most healthcare insurances say they'll cover you, but they won't cover pre-existing conditions. Other college drawbacks were managing when I took my warfarin and baby aspirin between classes, my part-time job, and having fun with my boyfriend and friends, scheduling times when I could go to the clinic and get my blood checked, scheduling times to see the cardiologist, and time for a cardiac catheter. It was really a lot to handle, not only for me, but for my family also. After my first cardiac catheter in college, the doctor put me on atenolol. A side effect of atenolol is it makes you tired. I got tired easily in college, but just laughed it off as a problem with my meds. Little did I know, the summer of my junior year in college, I was getting ready to go fuss with financial aid. I went to my bedroom and heard this weird tone in my ear. How weird, I thought. I walked out of the room, and halfway down the hall, I started to feel like Alice in Wonderland, when one pill makes you larger and one pill makes you small. I fell on the floor and my brother rushed over to me and carried me to the couch. I was really dizzy. Not like the room was spinning, but I was dizzy. Anyway, I immediately started vomiting. My speech was slurred, and I knew what I wanted to say, but couldn't. My brother called 911, and my mom and dad. I was put in an ambulance and rushed to the hospital because I had another stroke. Why? Why had I had another stroke? Because my medicine is a preventative and my Fontan can throw clots? That's why. A preventative doesn't mean it will keep it from happening, but it helps, so listen to your doctors. Anyways, after my stroke that occurred at the beginning of the summer, I lost all of my fine motor skills. Before I had to take my painting class, and I struggled when I first started painting after the stroke. I remember throwing my pen across the room and nearly crying because when I wrote or drew anything, it looked like I was in kindergarten. Eventually, things got back on track. I went back to work. Things were as normal as they were going to get. However, after that stroke, the doctor mentioned that I needed a pacemaker / defibrillator. Pulmonary atresia, tricuspid valve, my heart was working too hard, and some other fine, nifty doctor talk. I tried to follow along with as best I could. At any rate, winter break, my senior year of college, I had another heart surgery to put in a defibrillator / pacemaker. In case you're wondering, they cut me down the center to install it. 2 weeks later, it was time for me to go back to school and do my student teaching because I was going to be an art teacher. In May, I graduated with a bachelor's in art. After college, I moved in with that boyfriend I told you about when I first started college. In 2012, he became my Prince Charming, and we got married. He was by my side when I had my second stroke and my defibrillator / pacer put in. He truly is the best. Truly. This is me and my awesome dad walking down the beach to the beach. This is a picture of the ceremony. Got my sister and the best man and the preacher and my nephew. It was a small wedding, but that's the family. The fam, all of us together. My husband and I. Isn't he cute? Me and my adorable Chloe dog. I got my husband in there too. But yeah, me and the Chloe dog. A year after my husband and I married, I had quit my second job because it was a bad work environment. It was physical labor with a lot of lifting, and I started to not feel very good. One day, while I was at home with the love of my life, my dog, Chloe, my chest started hurting. It felt like I had heartburn or something. It was very uncomfortable. The pain started at 2 in the afternoon and continued. My husband came home at 6 that evening, and I told him how very uncomfortable my chest was. My husband suggested we go to the hospital. I told him, no, I'm fine. It might be heartburn. I was not fine. It was not heartburn. And I ended up going to the hospital with my husband. On the way to the hospital, it started to feel like I wasn't getting enough air. We arrived at the hospital. It still felt difficult to breathe, but I got out of the car and turned to walk into the ER. Before I even took my first step, I collapsed on the ground. My defibrillator had gone off. It felt as if every muscle in my whole body had just completed 300 sit-ups. My husband picked me up and carried me into the hospital like a football player, making a touchdown. He then called my mom, and my mom arrived at the hospital shortly. It turned out that I had just had defibrillation. Thank God I got that pacemaker defibrillator. Otherwise, it might have been lights out. The doc put me on amiodarone as a preventative so that defibrillation doesn't happen again. I'm taking a few other meds nowadays, but I've made it to my 31st birthday. Children born with hypoplastic right heart don't always make it to 18 hours old. Some don't make it to 5 years, 14 years, 18, or 23 years old. Those of you with this condition who are younger than me, it's a struggle. Those of you who are close in age might have some of the same experiences or even different ones altogether. I'm sharing this very long, ridiculous story of my life because, love it or hate it, it's a part of me. Most importantly, because all of you inspire me. And I hope this will inspire you. For those of you who don't have a congenital heart defect or heart disease, I know you have your own struggles, and just the same, I hope this story inspired you. Where there is a will, there is a way. Stay strong. You're all my precious rubies and gems to me. If you liked this long story of my life and are looking to be inspired, you can click the little like button or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Anyways, thanks for following along. Stay strong and take care till next time.